Hey guys, welcome back to my show. Today I got something very interesting or very frustrating, however you want to look at it. It is what it is. It's 6 unsolved mysteries with video footage. So I feel like even with video footage, the fact that it was still not solved is going to drive me absolutely insane. This one's going to be interesting. I don't know if I really like unsolved mysteries or I absolutely can't stand them. Not sure, whatever. We're going to just get into it today. Today I'm also going to be smoking a Nica Rustica. Absolutely wonderful cigar, burns straight all the way through. It's a solid stogie. Very earthy, this cigar is actually really good with a glass of whiskey. I'm not currently drinking whiskey right now, but I'm just gonna say it, like, I will be smoking this cigar. It's got a little pigtail, like I don't even really have to cut it. You just kind of pull that off and light it up. Now, gonna talk about this cigar for another like 2 seconds, but this cigar is the smokiest cigar I've ever smoked in my life. It's probably going to be all over the video. I'm just letting you know now. But don't let that bother you because I'm just a little bubble in the corner anyway. But let's get to this video, guys. Let's start watching it. All right, guys, here it is. So the channel that we're watching right now is called Red Cyrus. I know I've done a video on this guy before, too. This guy, I like this guy. I absolutely love videos like this. You know, anything that makes me think or question reality or even just anything crazy like that, like, you know what I mean? It's about a 40-minute long video. We'll see what happens. Like I said, literally the first chapter is you'll never find him, and it's from his mother. Oh my god. All right, guys, listen, let's just not waste any more time, so let's get to this. Let's do this shit.
For May 2011, 6-year-old Timothy Pitson left his school.
Oh, here we go. It's already begun with the bullcrap.
Amy had shown up at the school unexpectedly, telling the staff that there was a family emergency. Timothy's teachers were caught off guard as something seemed to be severely off with Amy, but they let Timothy go with his mother, figuring everything was going to be okay. These are some of the most disturbing unsolved cases with video footage. As they drove away from the school, Timothy was excited. He loved spending time with his mother, and they were heading out on what seemed like a special adventure. Amy took him to a zoo, then a water park. It felt like a mini holiday, and a chance to have some fun together, just the two of them. They checked into hotels along the way, and at each stop, Amy made sure they had fun. Still, to Timothy, it was probably just an exciting trip with his mom. But there were signs that things weren't as simple as
told you it's a smoky cigar, guys. I'll have it over here.
She was avoiding contact with Timothy's dad and other family members. She would call them every now and again, always sounding upbeat, but she never let Timothy talk to anyone. She'd say, he's fine, he's having fun, but never gave him the phone. When she called her husband, she told him not to worry and that they were fine, in a very cheerful tone. But still, the phone calls left the family uneasy. Why wouldn't she let Timothy speak? The two kept moving from place to place. They stayed in a couple different hotels, moving further and further away from home. Amy was seen on hotel security cameras, and people who saw them said that Timothy looked happy, completely unaware that anything was about to happen. At one point, Amy visited a hardware store where she bought a few items that didn't seem to fit with the road trip. She purchased small things like a notebook and a pen, things that just felt out of place. Amy seemed to be stalling, like she was trying to gain time, but no one knew for what. The choices she made only added to the mystery. Every call to her family sounded upbeat, yet the details made them anxious. Why did she seem so cheerful but refused to explain what she was doing or let Timothy talk?
What are you up to,
checked
Amy?
into a hotel without Timothy for one night. A strange move that raised even more questions. Why would she go to a hotel by herself when Timothy was still with her? And where did she leave the 6-year-old? These unexplained decisions kept building up, leaving her family more worried with each passing day. When Amy made her last call to her mother-in-law, she sounded calm. She told her that everything was going smoothly and she shouldn't worry about anything. But this time, her mother-in-law pressed her, asking directly to speak with Timothy. Though once again, Amy refused. This time, her excuse
Damn, Amy,
was
what the
simple.
hell?
He's busy playing. Her voice was light-hearted, but there was something strange about her tone, as if she was masking something deeper. On the 14th of May 2011, Amy checked into a motel in Rockford, Illinois. By then, she and Timothy had been on the road for 3 days. That evening, Amy was spotted on security cameras one last time as she entered her room alone. Timothy was was nowhere to be seen. The
Oh,
next
here we
day,
go.
motel staff found Amy dead in her room as she had ended her own life. It was a devastating discovery, but the shock didn't end there. Next to Amy's body, police found a note she had written, a message that only deepened the mystery. In her handwriting, Amy explained that Timothy was safe, but added something haunting: "You will never find him." But there was something else in the note that left Timothy's family and investigators
Ooh, that's
terrified.
chilly.
Amy also wrote, "Timothy is safe with people who will care for him." This message seemed to suggest that she had left Timothy with someone she trusted, someone who could take care of him. But who were these people? And did they even exist? The note left Timothy's family in disbelief. Amy had assured everyone that they were fine, but now she was gone, and Timothy was nowhere to be found. As the police combed through her car, they discovered traces of blood on the seat. They immediately tested it, and it was confirmed to be Timothy's.
Oh
This finding
my
raised
God.
new fears and new questions, as everyone was wondering what had really happened to Timothy. Was he in danger, or had he somehow been left in a safe place as Amy claimed? Investigators were caught between two possibilities. Either Amy had hidden him somewhere to protect him, or something much darker had occurred. Right after Amy's death, police launched an extensive search for Timothy. They retraced every step of her journey, hoping to uncover any clue that might lead them to him. Authorities examined maps, reviewed Amy's GPS records, and revisited every hotel and location she and Timothy had visited during those final days together. And they pored over surveillance footage, hoping to spot a moment, a clue, anything that could reveal where Amy had taken Timothy. As the search continued, investigators found more strange details. Amy's car showed signs that it had been through dirt roads and grassy areas. It was clear that she had probably been in remote locations, likely far away from any city or town. But where exactly? Search teams combed through forests, parks, and even isolated areas that matched the clues left by the dirt and plants found on her car. Yet despite these massive efforts, Timothy was nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, the story of Timothy's disappearance began to spread across the country. News stations picked up the story, broadcasting pictures of Timothy with his bright smile and innocent eyes. His face appeared everywhere.
Poor freaking kid, man. You know, he's got a whack of a mother.
Posters. The public was captivated by the mystery, and as more details emerged about Amy's final days, people began forming their own theories. Timothy's father, Jim Pitson, became the face of the family's heartbreak and hope. Appearing on news interviews, he spoke openly about the pain of losing Amy and the agony of not knowing where his son was, though he still believed, as Amy's note had said, that Timothy truly was safe somewhere. The general reaction to the case was mixed. Some people sympathized with Jim and clung on to the idea that Timothy was still alive, somewhere out there. They rallied for his return, joining search parties, volunteering, and spreading Timothy's story online. Others, however, began to question Amy's actions and whether her words in the note could be trusted. They speculated that her final message was meant to mislead, and some even believed that Timothy might never be found because he was no longer alive. Then, in 2019,
that's my theory.
8 years after Timothy's
As horrible as it sounds, and I hope I'm wrong.
took a very unexpected twist. A young man appeared, claiming to be Timothy Pitson, saying he had finally escaped his captors after years of being held against his will. For a brief moment, hope flooded back. Jim and his family were overwhelmed with emotion, believing that Timothy might be finally returning home. But that hope was crushed just as quickly as it appeared, as DNA tests revealed that the young man was not Timothy. He was in fact someone else entirely, a random, troubled person looking for a way out of their own life. Despite the disappointment, Timothy's case remains active.
Dude, there's not even a resemblance. The hell?
His family holds onto the hope that he's still out there. Timothy's disappearance has become one of America's most famous and confusing mysteries. Some still theorize that Amy may have had help, that maybe someone else was involved in Timothy's disappearance, which could help to explain the times that Amy was alone checking into the hotels. The idea is based partly on her note, where she mentioned Timothy being with people who would care for him, though to this day there's no evidence supporting this theory. But the idea that Timothy might still be out there, hidden with someone who knows the truth, keeps the mystery alive.
You can't give up hope. As soon as you give up hope, then what should I do? What, declare him dead? He's probably in the middle of nowhere, being homeschooled, someplace, just away from the media and TVs and new technology.
It was still dark in Midlothian, Texas.
We're going to talk about that one. I have a couple of ideas about that.
For 45-year-old Terry Missy Bevers, a fitness instructor and mother of 3, this was a normal time to be up and ready. She was dedicated to her fitness classes, regularly teaching early morning sessions. She had a class scheduled at Creekside Church of Christ that day, and she was known for showing up early to set everything up. Around 4:20 a.m., Missy entered the church, her headlights briefly illuminating the parking lot before going dark. With her workout equipment and supplies in hand, she made her way inside, likely unaware of the danger that awaited her. What she didn't know was that someone had already broken in. Hours before Missy arrived, Creekside Church had been empty, but by 3:50 a.m., a figure had appeared inside, roaming the halls in a way that would later raise unsettling questions. Security cameras captured the footage of this person, someone whose actions seemed more bizarre than purposeful. The intruder was dressed head to toe in SWAT-style tactical gear.
Here we go.
Vest and gloves, all of which concealed their identity. Obviously, this wasn't ordinary clothing, especially for someone committing a crime, and it was something that law enforcement would later struggle to explain, as they couldn't figure out if it was merely just a disguise or some sort of message.
It's a big dude.
The figure moved through the church, their actions were equally strange. Instead of heading directly to an office, a safe, or any obvious target, the person walked around, opening doors, checking rooms, and tapping on walls. Their pace was calm, almost wondering, as if they had all the time in the world, as it didn't seem like they were searching for anything specific. Instead, it felt as though they were just waiting. The security footage further showed this person pausing here and there, standing silently, before moving again. It was this slow, almost detached movement that would later haunt viewers. And in one of the stranger aspects caught on the camera was the fact that the figure seemed to even stagger slightly, as they walked very clumsily, as it looks as if they could be unfamiliar with the layout of the church, or they're in some kind of daze. At around 4:20 a.m., just as Missy entered the church, the camera footage ended. To this day, it's unclear exactly how much time passed between Missy walking into the church and her encounter with the intruder, but what is known is that Missy was soon to be found dead, her body discovered by her students who arrived for class a short time later. The scene that they would walk into was shocking. Missy had suffered multiple injuries that was believed to have been inflicted by a hammer that was left near her body. After her death, the investigators turned to Creekside Church's security cameras, hoping they held the clues that could identify Missy's killer. What detectives found is that the footage raised far more questions than it answered. Like, as the figure moved throughout the church, they would also periodically break certain objects and shatter glass, leading the police to believe that the person was trying to stage some sort of robbery gone wrong. Though that theory would make little sense when you consider that the robber neglected to take Missy's purse or iPad. Also, why had they chosen a church of all places?
And why did they dress like a cop or a SWAT
an
team?
unusual one. After the discovery of Missy's body at Creekside Church, Midlothian police faced a daunting task. Because there was just so little to go off, the detectives involved started watching the footage over and over again to find the tiniest of details, which then made them notice the killer's strange gait or walking style, as they seemed to move with a slight clumsiness, as if they were wearing shoes too big or simply had a very distinct walk. Internet detectives then started comparing the walk to those around Missy, and if you line up the videos of the SWAT-geared intruder with those of her father, they do look eerily similar. But this evidence, if you can even call it that, is extremely weak, and is a symptom of the case being so mysterious and confusing. The police themselves...
Yeah, Dad has his head leaning forward more than the guy actually walking, though.
Clothes too big or too heavy. Though again, this theory led nowhere. As detectives continued analyzing the footage, they turned to Missy's family, friends, and acquaintances, hoping to uncover any motive or clue that could point them towards a suspect. They asked about Missy's relationships, any recent conflicts, and her schedule, searching for anything that might explain why someone would target her. Missy's husband, Brandon, her 3 children, and her close friends all cooperated fully, sharing information about Missy's life and any challenges she might have been facing. According to her loved ones, Missy was well-liked, devoted to her family, and passionate about her work as a fitness instructor. However, some friends mentioned mentioned that Missy had recently expressed concerns about a strange social media message she had received. These messages on LinkedIn reportedly came from an unknown male
here we
and were
go.
described as creepy and strange. The police would track down this person of interest, though it ultimately turned out to be a dead end. Detectives documented everything they had learned, yet no single piece of information pointed directly towards a clear suspect. To this day, Terry Missy Bever's case has gone completely unsolved.
Again, this stuff kills me, man. This stuff bothers the hell out of me because we'll never frickin' know.
Living in Phoenix, Arizona, with her father, Michael Turney, and half-sister Sarah. Like most teenagers, she had a part-time job, friends, and dreams for the future. But on the 17th of May 2001, everything changed. That was the day Alyssa vanished without a trace, and the mystery of her disappearance would leave her family and community searching for answers for years to come. It was the last day of school, and Alyssa was looking forward to summer break. She and her friends had made plans to celebrate, and it seemed like a typical start to what should have been a carefree summer. But what happened that afternoon has been clouded by strange details, some coming from her father Michael himself, who was the last person to ever see her. According to Michael,
Oh yeah, dude, you're the suspect of the day, man.
Around lunchtime, he claimed that they went out for a bite to eat at a local restaurant, and then once they returned home, they had a heated argument. Michael would later tell the police that Alyssa stormed off, shouting that she was leaving and heading to California to live with her biological aunt. To back this story, Michael claimed he found a note from Alyssa in her room, saying basically exactly what she was saying in the argument, that she was running away. The note, written in Alyssa's handwriting, didn't sit right with Alyssa's friends and family. For one, none of her belongings, like her phone or purse, were missing. If Alyssa truly intended to run away, why would she leave behind everything she'd need? And why didn't she tell any of her close friends about her plans? Initially, authorities treated Alyssa as a runaway, believing that she might have truly gone to California or was still somewhere nearby in the Phoenix area. However, doubts started to arise when the $1,800 in her bank account was left completely untouched, and she failed to contact any of her friends and family. As police started to investigate further, they discovered something odd. Michael had been tracking Alyssa's movements in ways that went beyond what many see as protective. In fact, he seemed to have an unusual level of control.
Oh, come on, man.
At her job, Alyssa's co-workers noticed Michael would occasionally appear unannounced, sometimes with a video camera. In one instance, he secretly recorded his daughter's interactions with customers, co-workers, and
Dude, what the
friends,
hell is wrong with this guy?
ensure her safety. But there was
I would've ran away
no
too.
reason why he would have to monitor her like this. These recordings weren't limited to her workplace either. Michael had even installed surveillance devices around their home, and one of the most disturbing details was
here
the
we
discovery
go.
of hidden recording devices in the family's living room. It's unknown how often Michael reviewed these recordings, but it was clear he had an intense need to keep tabs on Alyssa's actions and conversations.
Is it hidden in the vent?
Extended into nearly every aspect of Alyssa's life. Michael kept strict control over her social life, reportedly screening her phone calls and limiting her time with friends. Alyssa's friends recalled that Michael seemed overly protective and suspicious, making her feel uncomfortable and trapped. They reported that Alyssa felt she couldn't do anything without her father knowing, and over time, she grew increasingly resentful of his intense surveillance. For
let the
any
girl breathe,
teenager,
dude.
This level of control would have felt suffocating. Though it gets much more worrying when the police were taking statements from those who knew Alyssa to try and find any leads revolving her disappearance. One of her close friends, her boyfriend, and her stepbrother all independently shared stories that they had heard from Alyssa, all involving Michael attempting to illegally and inappropriately touch his daughter. In one
Here we
instance,
go.
Alyssa's stepbrother said that during a car ride, Michael scooted closer to Alyssa and then tried to touch her in ways that would certainly get him arrested.
Michael, you
when he
suck.
reported it. Speaking
Man,
of
you
which,
suck
Michael
ass.
himself once called Child Protective Services to warn them that if Alyssa was to ever call them to accuse him of touching her strangely, that she's a liar. A very normal thing for a loving father to do. Then somehow the strangeness continues. Michael was
Dude, they're just
fixated
like
on
telling on
a
herself, man. Oh my god.
Alyssa. He frequently brought up the claim that years prior, Alyssa had been reported by a teacher. Michael often told people he
Glad they
believed
blurred
this
that.
incident deeply affected her, yet there was no concrete evidence of it ever happening. Interestingly, Michael's account of the incident would often shift, making it hard for investigators to verify. Alyssa's close friends noted that she had never mentioned this supposed assault, and many doubted it ever happened. Michael, however, used this story as a justification for his extreme protectiveness, insisting that he was simply trying to shield Alyssa from further harm. Then there was the matter of Alyssa's aunt. When the police followed up, they learned that Alyssa's aunt in California hadn't heard from her and wasn't expecting her to come. This detail obviously threw more doubt on Michael's story. If Alyssa had indeed intended to run away, why hadn't she contacted the aunt that she was supposedly going to stay with? To the police, Alyssa's disappearance started looking less like a runaway case and more like a mystery. But without clear evidence of any sort of crime taking place, the case stalled. One of the most unsettling details about Alyssa's case is that her disappearance was marked by a quiet inaction from Michael himself. Normally, parents of missing children are frantic, calling every friend and visiting every place they can think of to find their child. But Michael didn't seem to do any of that. Instead, he waited 5 days after Alyssa vanished to report her missing. For many, this delayed response obviously raised
This
suspicion.
guy.
When asked why he waited, Michael claimed that he thought Alyssa would return home when she had cooled off, insisting that she was just a rebellious teen who had run away in the heat of the moment. After years of frustration, doubt, and silence, one voice would rise above the uncertainty surrounding Alyssa Turney's disappearance. Her younger sister, Sarah. Driven by a desire to know what really happened, Sarah Turney became the leading force behind Alyssa's case, refusing to let her sister's story fade. For years, she struggled to understand what had happened and to reconcile the loss of her sister with the vague and suspicious stories told by her stepdad, Michael. As Sarah grew older, her curiosity deepened. She began questioning the details surrounding Alyssa's disappearance and eventually recognized the inconsistencies in the story that Michael had shared with her over the years. While police had long classified Alyssa's case as a runaway situation, Sarah began to suspect that it was something far more sinister. At first, Sarah tried addressing her concerns within her family. She asked Michael directly about what had happened and pushed for answers. Michael insisted that Alyssa had simply left, that she had run away and wanted nothing to do with them anymore. Yet Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the story, and that her stepdad might be hiding something crucial. Sarah also reached out to law enforcement, hoping they could reopen the case, but with no new evidence, and Alyssa's status officially labeled as a runaway, the police weren't able to provide much assistance. Despite these roadblocks, Sarah continued her quest, refusing to accept that her sister's case would remain unsolved. Frustrated by the lack of progress, Sarah took matters into her own hands and turned to social media. She started sharing Alyssa's story online, using every platform available to spread awareness and gain support. Over time, her posts began to capture attention, and Sarah's online presence grew. But it wasn't until she joined TikTok that her fight for justice truly gained momentum. On TikTok, Sarah adopted a very direct and honest approach. She very openly talked about her suspicions of Michael, as well as her struggle to keep the case alive. Sarah wasn't afraid in the slightest to speak out against her own stepdad, publicly declaring that she believed he was responsible for Alyssa's disappearance. Her boldness was both risky and shocking, but it was effective on TikTok as viewers admired her courage to speak out. Even
good for you, girl. Sarah,
I'm
pretty sure
after
his name.
years of uncertainty and years of advocacy from Sarah, the investigation into Alyssa's disappearance took a significant turn. In August 2020, nearly 2 decades after Alyssa was last seen, police arrested her stepfather, Michael Turney, charging him with second-degree murder. Investigators pieced together patterns of Michael's controlling behavior, leading to the decision to formally reopen the case and charge him. The second-degree murder charge against Michael Turney indicated that the authorities believed he had killed Alyssa without premeditation. However, the lack of any direct physical evidence linking Michael to Alyssa's disappearance posed a significant challenge for the prosecution. Despite his hurdles, Sarah and her supporters
he just looks like a creep.
Circumstantial evidence and Michael's own actions would lead to a conviction. In July 2023, Michael Turney's trial commenced. After 6 days of testimony, the defense filed a motion for an acquittal, arguing that the prosecution had not presented substantial evidence
He's missing an arm.
conviction. The
Damn.
judge agreed, citing the absence of physical evidence proving Alyssa's death or Michael's involvement, and acquitted Michael of all charges. He was released from custody on July 18th, 2023. Following his release, Michael Turney took legal action against local officials. In January of 2024, he filed a lawsuit against the Phoenix Police Department, as Michael alleged he was mistreated during his time in custody, claiming he was denied adequate health care and meals, and asserted he was wrongfully imprisoned. As of today, the case of Alyssa Turney has gone completely cold.
Back to square one.
Same message I've always tried to get it.
Which is,
I love her.
you want her to come home.
Obviously so.
See, he's a creep, but like, we'll never freaking know.
Day of a lifetime, a Caribbean cruise, warm beaches, and the endless blue.
He could have been genuinely seriously like, I didn't do this.
23-year-old recent college graduate from Virginia was thrilled about the trip. Traveling with her family, she boarded the Royal Caribbean cruise ship Rhapsody of the Seas on March 21st, 1998. Amy was excited, but also a little bit nervous.
God, look at the camera quality.
Said
It's
she wasn't
hilarious.
exactly the cruise type. Amy was athletic, outgoing, and independent, but she had a fear of open water, which made the cruise ship a bit of a leap outside her comfort zone. The night of March 23rd should have been just like any other night on the cruise ship. The family enjoyed dinner, and Amy later went to a nightclub on the ship with her brother Brad. The siblings had a fun night, dancing and chatting with the other passengers, and in a video taken that night, Amy looked happy and carefree. Around 3:30 a.m., Brad left the club to go to bed, and Amy told him she'd be right behind him. This was the last confirmed sighting of Amy by her family. Early next
Here we
morning,
go.
things took a shocking turn. Around 5:30 a.m., Amy's father, Ron Bradley, woke up in their shared cabin. He noticed that Amy wasn't in her bed, which immediately set off the alarms in his head. It was strange for Amy to be up that early, especially since they'd been out late the night before. Ron initially assumed she might have gone up to the deck to watch the sunrise, and he figured she'd be back soon. But as the minutes passed and Amy didn't return, Ron's concern grew. He searched around the ship looking for any sign of his daughter, as he checked the common areas, the decks, and even went to the ship's dining area, but there was no trace of Amy. Feeling increasingly desperate, he woke up the rest of the family. They searched for her together, hoping to find her asleep somewhere else or chatting with a friend, but Amy was nowhere to be found. By 6 a.m., the family reported Amy's disappearance to the ship's crew. At first, the crew didn't seem as worried as the Bradleys were. They suggested that maybe Amy had gone for a swim, fallen asleep somewhere, or even gone ashore on her own during an early port stop. However, Amy's family knew she wouldn't have just wandered off without telling them. They insisted that something was wrong and pushed for a more thorough search of the ship. The search of the Rhapsody of the Seas was extensive, but it wasn't fast. Crew members scanned every deck, every room, every public area for any sign of Amy. Still,
Damn, Amy.
nothing
Another
happened.
Amy, by the way, in
That
this
day, the captain made an
video.
official announcement alerting all passengers to Amy's disappearance and asking for any information. But despite everyone's efforts, it was as if she had just vanished into thin air. Amy's family then tried to convince the captain to stop the boat until Amy had been found, as if the worst case scenario had happened and she had been kidnapped. She could then be smuggled off the ship when they'd eventually reached the port. The captain ignored their pleas and continued to drive the boat, allowing everyone off the ship. For the Bradley family, the idea that Amy might have gone overboard was unbearable. She was a strong swimmer and wouldn't have been careless around the water. Plus, Amy had left behind her shoes and her identification in her cabin, which raised even more questions. Could she have met someone who persuaded her to leave her cabin, or had she encountered someone with darker intentions? Well, Amy's family, desperate for answers, recalled several strange interactions she had with crew members during the trip. A few days before she vanished, Amy mentioned feeling uncomfortable around some of the crew. According to her family, she felt watched. One particular crew member had approached her several times, showing an unusual amount of interest in her. He reportedly invited her to go dancing at the club off the ship, which she turned down. Then, her family noticed something very worrying. On board the ship, there was an area where photos of passengers were displayed, pictures taken by the ship's photographers, available for families to view and buy. But something was wrong. All the photos featuring Amy had vanished. Her family couldn't help but wonder that someone intentionally removed her
man.
pictures? If so, who would do such a thing and why? And as time passed, some people have claimed to have seen Amy, fueling the theories that she might still be alive. Several witnesses came forward saying that they had seen a woman matching Amy's description in the Caribbean. These sightings included accounts from a sailor and tourists who saw a woman resembling Amy with men who seemed to control her. In one case, a Canadian tourist reported seeing a woman in a brothel in Barbados. The woman allegedly begged for help, saying she was in fact Amy and was not allowed to leave. These sightings gave Amy's family hope, but all of them led to dead ends when followed up by authorities. No concrete evidence was found, and the woman in the sightings was never confirmed to be Amy. The descriptions were often vague, and some sightings happened in chaotic settings. Still, for the Bradleys, each new sighting brought a glimmer.
See, this is another
Also connected
a really sad, you know, story again that is never probably going to be solved ever.
Sold into human trafficking.
Humans suck,
The idea
man.
was bolstered years later when a chilling piece of evidence emerged as a photo of a woman resembling Amy was found on an adult website. The woman in the photo had a similar tattoo to Amy, and her appearance is undeniably similar considering that she would be several years older. Amy's parents saw the photo and were
come
convinced
on.
it was her. They believed the image was proof that Amy was alive, trapped in a terrifying situation from which she couldn't escape. Investigators found evidence of human trafficking rings operating within the Caribbean, and a young woman like Amy, traveling alone at night on the ship, could have been a target. Her family began to suspect that if someone had lured her, they might have forced her off the ship in one of the island ports and into a dark underground network. Either way, until this day, Amy Lynn Bradley is still missing 26 years later.
That's
Kenny
effed
was
up,
no
man.
ordinary hiker. Kenny was the kind of person who
Human
thrived on
trafficking. What a bunch of
adventure. He'd been
shitheads,
hiking for
man.
years, tackling some of the hardest trails in the southwest United States. Friends described him as fearless and intensely curious, which perhaps is what eventually led to his unfortunate end. He documented one of his hikes on YouTube, where he gained a small viewer base and talked about some of his findings in the endless stretches of the Mojave Desert. There were abandoned mines, strange caves, and even government training grounds all around the place. Kenny's viewers became captivated by his discoveries, eagerly awaiting another upload, and for Kenny, their excitement seemed to fuel his own. Despite the dangers, Kenny found a sense of freedom in these remote places, but he also knew the risks. A simple step on a rock, a broken bone, or getting lost without cell reception could mean life or death. Yet Kenny believed the rewards were worth the risk. Kenny once shared that he had a habit of exploring alone, even when people warned him against it. Hiking alone,
I'm guilty of this too, by the way.
was not something that most would consider, but Kenny saw it differently. He believed that hiking alone sharpened his senses and it forced him to be more aware of his surroundings.
Okay, I'm not that
Without
bad,
the company,
but
he could listen
okay.
to the desert and focus on the details he might otherwise overlook. His viewers, and also he probably knew, that each time he went out there alone, he was taking a chance. But it was a chance he seemed willing to take again and again. But there was one discovery that would change everything. It wasn't just another rocky canyon or long abandoned mine. It was something different.
And I'm looking for a cave that I found, and I didn't have a sidearm when I was here before. And something about that cave just spooked me. Out of all the caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate. The closer I got to it, the crazier my body felt, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna go in there right now, but I'm coming back someday. So hopefully I'll find it. It's shaped like a big M. It's a big cave that looks just like a gigantic M, and it's about as tall as I am, and kind of narrow, and it's stuck on the side of a mountain. So I hope I can find it again.
His viewers began to speculate about what might have caused such a strange reaction. Some thought it was natural, maybe an odd geological feature, or maybe a minor earthquake. And obviously others immediately believed there was something more mysterious at play, like secret military experiments or something supernatural. Kenny read through all the comments, and it was clear that the mystery of the M-shaped cave had captured the minds of many. People were sending him messages, pushing him to return to the desert and explore the cave. It wasn't like him just to back down from it.
Sorry for yawning.
The encouragement from the viewers made it harder for him to ignore the mystery. But he was also cautious. He knew that returning to such a remote location was risky, especially with the strange sensation he had felt. Was it really?
I don't know. Listen to your gut, guys. If your gut says no, don't do it.
He wanted answers just as much as his audience did, maybe even more. And and soon he announced his plans to go back, determined to find out once and for all what was inside that cave. Kenny prepared carefully for this trip, aware of the dangers that awaited him in the desert. Even for an experienced hiker like him, the Mojave held countless risks. This wasn't just a quick day hike. The remote location of the cave meant that he'd have to navigate miles of rugged terrain with limited supplies and no phone reception. In case anything went wrong, Kenny let his girlfriend and a few close friends know where he'd be heading. This way they'd have an idea of his location if he didn't come back. Then, days passed, and no one heard from Kenny. At first, his friends and family assumed he was still exploring, caught up in the thrill of adventure. But as more time went by, their worry grew. Kenny's girlfriend reported him missing, and a search operation was launched as teams of rescue workers scoured the Mojave Desert, covering every trail and checking every canyon. They looked for signs of his presence, hoping to find any clue about where he might have gone. During the search, they discovered Kenny's phone lying on the ground near an abandoned mine shaft. This was miles from any marked trail and deep within the desert. The phone had no interesting messages, no final recordings, no indication of what might have happened to it. It was as if he had left it on purpose or had dropped it by accident before going further into the wilderness. I mean, why would he leave it behind? Despite extensive search efforts, no other trace of Kenny was ever found. The team searched for weeks, covering the surrounding area and examining any possible routes he might have taken. But the desert is vast, and its rocky, uneven terrain makes it difficult to find someone, especially in the remote areas where Kenny was known to explore. With no further evidence and no sign of Kenny, the search was eventually called off, leaving his friends, family, and YouTube viewers with more questions than answers. The M-shaped cave quickly became the focal point of every theory as to what might have happened, as the cave itself was never located either. People have found caves that could be the M-shaped one, but nothing solid, and no one has ever experienced the same intense
M
vibrations
for
Kenny did.
missing.
The mystery surrounding Kenny has built
That
up a
was
sort of
bad, I'm sorry.
community of amateur investigators and internet detectives. One of their many theories involves Kenny's sister Debbie Beach. Now Debbie runs a little Reiki studio and shop, and in 2018 it was burgled. A man, unidentified, broke in through a glass window with a crowbar, stealing an iPad and other small items. Many people who like investigating the mystery of Kenny are absolutely convinced that this was him based off of the security footage. Debbie has never even implied it's Kenny, but still, people are clearly desperate to find out what happened to him. To this day, Kenny's case remains unsolved.
Damn, Kenny, what the hell?
Rudd was only 8 years old when she disappeared from Washington, D.C., leaving a trail of unanswered questions and unsettling mysteries behind. Born on October 29th, 2005, Relisha
I hate videos that involve kids.
Relisha's family,
Like, it always just adds to the, oh, this sucks. You know?
Between unstable housing situations. Relisha and her family eventually found a place to stay at a shelter known as the General Family Shelter. While it provided a roof over their heads, it was a difficult environment for any child. The shelter housed hundreds of families and individuals experiencing homelessness, and the facility was crowded and sometimes chaotic. For Relisha, the shelter was both her home and her playground, though it was far from the safe, nurturing environment that every child deserves. Despite these hardships, Relisha's teachers and people who knew her described her as friendly and full of curiosity. They noted how she loved school and seemed to be happy there, finding some sense of stability and normalcy in the classroom. Her teacher noticed, though, that her attendance was irregular. Days turned into weeks, and when Relisha stopped coming to school altogether, people started to worry. At first, no one knew what to think. Relisha's absence was unusual, but not completely shocking. Living in the shelter meant that her life was unpredictable, and unfortunately, it wasn't uncommon for children in similar situations to miss days of school. School officials made phone calls and reached out to her family when her mother, Shamika Young, was contacted. She claimed that Relisha was in the care of a doctor who was being treated for a health issue. She even provided the name of the doctor, Dr. Tatum. Relieved, the school trusted Shamika's explanation and didn't press her any further. They had no reason to doubt her words, but this decision would soon reveal its terrifying consequences.
No, what the hell?
It was the 1st of March 2014 when the authorities were finally contacted. School officials decided to look into Relisha's absence once more and discovered something that made them uneasy. The Dr. Tatum that Relisha's mother had referred to wasn't a doctor at all. He was Khalil Tatum, a janitor at the shelter where Relisha's family lived.
I hate it already. I hate it. Oh.
For everyone involved. Khalil wasn't just a stranger to Relish's family. He was someone who had developed a close, almost unsettling relationship with her.
He's a freaking creep.
Families noticed how Tatum spent time with Relisha, buying her gifts, taking her on outings, and providing her with things that perhaps her family couldn't afford. People close to the family obviously saw these gestures as unusual, but no one could have guessed what would come next. Tatum had an extensive criminal history that included burglary and larceny. He was hired despite concerns raised by some about the shelter's lack of proper background checks. The shelter's staffing shortage and high demand for support made it difficult to screen employees thoroughly. Tatum's role brought him into frequent contact with Relisha and her family, and he gradually became a trusted figure in their lives. Relisha's mother, Shamika, accepted these gestures, even allowing Relisha to spend unsupervised time with him. Once police began investigating, they uncovered disturbing details about Tatum's behavior. Surveillance footage later revealed that Tatum had taken Relisha to a Holiday Inn Express in northeast Washington on March 1st, making it the last known sighting of the young girl. Tatum's actions following that day became even more suspicious. He was spotted purchasing a shovel, lime, a chemical that can be used to stop the smell of a rotting corpse, as well as large trash bags. Items that suggested he might have intended to cover up a crime. Then, something very unexpected happened. As the investigation intensified, authorities discovered that Khalil Tatum's wife, Andrea, was found dead in a hotel room from a gunshot wound. This development only deepened the urgency of the search for Relisha.
This guy sucks.
Tatum was even more dangerous.
This guy sucks so bad.
Law enforcement began a nationwide search for Tatum. Meanwhile, the behavior of Relisha's mother, Shamika, was starting to make less and less sense. When the school first notified Shamika that Relisha wasn't attending anymore, Shamika did not immediately notify the police or the shelter staff, a delay that severely impacted the investigation. And Shamika's general response was slow and at times evasive. When asked by the police and child welfare authorities about her daughter's last known whereabouts, she provided limited information, and her answers often lacked urgency. It could be possible that Shamika might have feared getting into trouble herself, as she was aware of Tatum's involvement with her daughter and the potential legal implications of neglect. Authorities investigating the case became increasingly frustrated with Shamika's lack of cooperation. Although she eventually acknowledged that Tatum had been taking care of Relisha, she continued to give inconsistent statements about why she allowed her daughter to spend so much time with him. Her explanations were contradictory, shifting between trusting Tatum.
I was wondering with that. Yeah, I was wondering what the hell.
Her daughter faced. Shamika's behavior either suggested a stupidly high level of trust in a stranger or a complete failure to recognize the risks associated with allowing her daughter to be in Tatum's care.
Or freaking both, just incompetent mother.
Had happened. Khalil Tatum was found to have taken his own life in a shed in Kenilworth Park, which was an area that had already been searched for Relisha. Tatum was the last person seen with Relisha, so when he died, he took many of the answers with him. His death left police scrambling for leads, but despite searches,
this poor girl,
they
dude.
weren't even certain if Relisha was alive, alone, or had been given to someone else. Purely speculating, I think it's possible that Tatum may have had a less than legal relationship with Relisha and may have been exploiting her with Shamika's permission. Perhaps Tatum's wife Andrea found out, and that was the motive behind her unfortunate death, though the true motive behind Relisha Rutt's disappearance will likely never be known. And that concludes today's video.
Oh my god, guys. Hang on. Alright.
Check out this video that you
Let's get out of this. Hang on, let's talk about this. Man, you know, I do this to myself. Okay? I do this to myself. You know what? You know, and you know what? You probably do this to yourself too, because you're watching my reaction to this bullshit. You know what I mean? Oh my god. You know, okay, so not only was every single one of these stories terrible, and what I mean by terrible, it's like a very, very unfortunate. Is that even a word? I don't know. But oh my god, I'm gonna be thinking about this for the next like 3 hours. I'm gonna be thinking about this probably for the rest of my day. And it's, what time is it? It's like 4:30 right now, so it's like 4:30. But like, my god, you know, and you know, okay. So with the mother with the first kid, Amy, and I think his name was Timothy or something. You know, you'll never find him. My theory is I think she went crazy or lost her mind or thought, someone was like stalking him or some, supernatural force was probably stalking him or something, or she thought she was being possessed. I don't know. But she probably killed the kid and figured he's in a safe place, meaning heaven maybe up with the angels or something, if you believe in that kind of stuff. I don't know. Dude, man, like I hate this kind of stuff, man. Like, I really hate this stuff, because we'll never know. No one ever knows. No one knows anything. No, and then now we have the girl who disappeared with her stepdad, and the dude looked creepy, all right? The dude looked like a complete creep. But who knows? He could have been totally innocent, but maybe he's like a sociopath and he's good at like hiding his emotions and not getting overly hyped, and maybe he's so good at manipulating his emotions that he could pretend that he actually misses her. I don't know. I'm not making stuff up. I don't know. Then the cruise ship girl, like that one, I think that is the biggest cliffhanger. And that one, anything involving, okay, I have a huge problem when it involves children or some kind of trafficking of some sort. Like, get the hell out of here, man. Like, that girl was just having a cruise, like living her life on a cruise ship at a club, which I'm not a big club guy. I could care less about going out on like a Friday or Saturday night, going to the club, hanging out, and just getting trashed and hooking up the night. I could give a shit. I'd rather just be at home doing nothing. And if I'm not in bed by 10 o'clock, I'm having, like, what am I doing, But, the supposed evidence that they found her in some kind of, like, I don't want to say the word, but like some kind of like adult video, and the parents were so sure that that was her as like the victim, but oh my God, man. Like, I mean, that's really sad. But the thing is, like, even if you are so sure that that was your daughter, it's still unknown. And I think, like I said, like I said, I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place when it comes to unsolved mysteries. I don't know if I really like them or I absolutely can't stand them. I guess it depends on the severity of it. Like, okay, like an unsolved mystery would also be like Bigfoot. Like, people have claimed to see Bigfoot, but no one's actually given like actual concrete evidence of Bigfoot, especially with the technology we have today. Like, listen, like my phone's in apparently 4K, I guess, whatever, it's what it says. But how have we not gotten a 4K picture of Bigfoot? Like, I'm going off subject, but I'm just saying, like, it's an urban legend. But like I said, like, these are real cases that went cold, and we'll never figure it out. At least not right now, maybe not even in our lifetime, but maybe, who knows, maybe, like, let's go with that guy Ken that went to the M cave, maybe, 30 years, 40 years, 100 years from now, like, somebody wanders into the same cave with, like, less unfortunate news that guy Ken has, and they find a skeleton in there. I don't know, but that means case closed, I guess, I'm sorry, but if I walk into a cave and I'm just like a random explorer of some sort and I see a random skeleton, I'm gonna report it. And then of course forensics can do their, DNA and stuff and be like, oh, that's him, yep, found him. Mystery solved, and there you go. Because I doubt that was Ken breaking into his sister's restaurant or store or whatever the hell it was and causing a scene. I really don't believe that. I don't know why. I don't believe that any bit whatsoever. And who knows? Maybe literally the scenario I just explained to you could happen to all of them. Where, hey, guess what? We found that kid Timothy. He was just out of Walmart. Looks just like him. Hold the picture up, and there he is. Oh my God. I don't know, guys. Like I said, I don't know if I really like this stuff or I absolutely can't stand it. Put in the comment section what you guys think about these. Like I said, I'm between a rock and a hard place. You know what I mean? I think depending on what the mystery is or what the scenario of the story is, depends on whether or not I like it. These were all kind of just really like, these were just sad. These were really kind of sad. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna say it ruined my day, but it just didn't help my day at all. You know what I mean? I'm really, honestly, after watching, like, before even watching this, I'm sorry, I've had a really good day. I know that's off subject, but today was a pretty solid, awesome kind of day. Busy. I worked all day, and now I did this, and like, it is what it is. But man, I don't know, guys. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You know, write in the comment section what you think may or may not have happened to. We'll use the word victims. I guess we'll use the word victims because they kind of are victims. I guess, yeah, we'll just use the victims. What do you think happened to these victims? You can literally have an opinion about all of them or just one of them. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. I have my own opinions on this. I would like to see if you have anything else. Please just be like, I guess have some consideration, because like the families and people who are going through these missing like things are not having a good time. They're clearly just torn, you know. I guess that'd be the word. And I feel for these families, I really do. But like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, guys. Stay tuned for more videos just like this one. I'm going to be trying something. I'm probably gonna, like, I actually kind of like had a fortunate thing happen in my life where I have more time on my hand, which is kind of nice. I still make the same amount of money, but I'm still doing pretty good, like business wise. But I'm gonna try and see if I can make a video probably every day, maybe not every day, but probably every other day. I love doing this, and I would love to, you know, keep spending some time with my subscribers and everything like that. So stay tuned for more video, guys, and always remember to have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.